This is an entire YouTube channel of tearjerkers. So this YouTube channel is called the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, and some of the stories aren't all that moving. Sometimes somebody just jumped on a grenade, and maybe the telling of the story isn't all that great, even, and it's fun. Some of them are so in depth, long, with so many witnesses, and it's so well edited. The tears are rolling. I don't just shed a tear. I'm sobbing. I've got a towel blowing my nose. Like, yeah, you did. Yes, you did. Thank you. Like these guys, this guy in Vietnam, they like left him on this artillery position. It's all the artillery guns are there in this clearing in the jungle, and they've got like an encampment there. It's where they're staying. And like a colonel or something comes down in a helicopter, and he's like, your position's getting overrun tonight. They're coming. They're coming from the east. There's 2,000 men. It's the whatever detachment of this and that. They're coming. Be prepared. And then he gets on his helicopter and fucking leaves. And so they have their artillery pieces pointed level, shooting beehive rounds. And the guy who won the Medal of Honor is operating one of these things. And they keep shooting him. The enemy keeps shooting him, and he keeps getting blown up by grenades. And he's telling the story, so he makes it. But he's just like, that one took my rib out, and I could see the rib. And I said, Lord, just let me fire one more. And I loaded her up, and I let her fly. And then the grenade went off, and the shrapnel peppered out my left eye. And I said, Lord, let me fire one more. And I loaded her up, and I let her fly. And every time that cannon would go off, a swath of the enemy, and the jungle itself would tremble. And then he fights them all off. All the enemy are gone. He said, but I looked across the river, and as well as I could with my good eye, and I saw little Billy. Little Billy was out on that island. He was screaming for help. And so he like gets in an inflatable bed and paddles across the river and like saves this other guy. And it's like after he had been shot like multiple times, all sorts of frag wounds, and he just laid waste to the enemy. And then there's another guy who was special forces, and they had been dropped off on a riverboat deep into Laos, and they stumble upon like 1,500, 2,000 men. And his Cambodian like counterpart or South Vietnamese counterparts got spooked and shot a gun off or something. And now the enemy's coming down on him. And he's radioing fucking artillery fire from naval guns onto these enemy positions that are right in front of him. He's shooting rockets at them. He's fighting hand to hand. He's machine gunning people. Both of his buddies are blown up. One's lost half his head. The other's lost half his ass. He's got both of them. He's carrying two grown men. He ends up on the beach calling all the artillery down on his position. The enemy's pouring down the hill toward him. He starts swimming out to the ocean with two men on his shoulder. He swims miles into the ocean to the Navy carrying two men. One of them's and it's at this part where they cut back to the footage of the interviewer, and they show a new guy you haven't seen yet in the story, and you could tell half his head had been blown off. He pulled me out. It wasn't no
terrible interview.
No, he's fucking telling a story, and half his head.
You got to tell us who this is so we can watch the video, though.
It's in this. It's one of these. It's one of these from the Congressional Medal of Honor Society like video thing. I don't know which one it is.
That's awesome that they got that channel.
Those have me sobbing every time I watch them. They're wild. The shit that those guys did and went through, and the perseverance. There was a Jewish guy that couldn't speak well in Korea, like had bad eyesight, and he's like, I was going to show those son of bitches I was tough. And it's like all these men that wanted to prove themselves and just went above and beyond. It's crazy stuff. That always makes me cry. I watched a movie it's on our Plex. It's called Warfare. It's an A24 flick. It's the most hardcore military movie I've ever seen. It's a true story. It's told by the memories of the Navy SEALs who were there. I think it took place in Kandahar. The whole movie takes place in one location. You kind of get to know the guys as you go, and it is super fucking intense. I think, did Alex Garland direct it? I know that the co-director or one of the directors was one of the SEALs maybe that was there. And I know after the movie, when the credits are rolling, there's like the SEALs are there, like
Garland and Mendoza, I believe.
It's hard fucking core. It looks real. It looks very real, and it seems realistic. And there's so much like attention to detail with not just the way they're dressed, the way they move, the way they act, like the whole thing. And the combat is incredibly intense. It's like it reminds me of the Saving Private Ryan D-Day stuff, how like it takes away the illusion of like war being this hoorah fun kind of thing. Like, like your buddies are blown up, and they're hurting bad, and you're just trying to fight to stay alive, and nobody's pumped and like having a good time. Everybody's scared. It's intense and it's scary, and it's like you're just happy you weren't in that fucking room and you weren't in that building in Kandahar.
Did you watch it in the theater, or did you see it at home? Or
I watched it at home a couple nights ago.
Nice.
I definitely recommend it. I was looking at the Rotten Tomatoes reviews, and some guy, his review was he gave it 5 stars. He's like, I was so happy when it was over, in a good way, because like you want your boys to live, and you don't know if they're gonna or not, because like bad shit is happening. The movie has it's very gory. It looks real. Like when you see people blown apart, you see people with really nasty compound fracture, shrapnel injuries, and such, and they're in pain, and it's rough.
When do you think the absolute worst time to be like a not front lines soldier
World War I.
in the most strict sense?
World War I.
No, all of history.
Civil
World
War.
War
Cannon fodder. I got the gangrene from one musket round.
That would suck too.
World War I think. World War One. I think that you had those armies in World War One. Some of them still had sort of. I mean, the Civil War was that first step into modern combat, I think. But World War One fully encompassed it with the machine guns, the barbed wire, the gas, the trench warfare, and those battles in France where years would pass and the front lines would jiggle back and forth 300 meters. The trench foot. You read some of the stuff about the gases and the effects that at first there were no gas masks right away. Gas came before the gas mask on the tech ladder. So think about how that went for a little while, and the chlorine gas, they used all sorts of things. They used things that would make people's faces melt off, they used nasty stuff, and the artillery, and just the amount of time that you were on the front line in danger. It's the worst of all the worlds, if you ask me. At least if you were getting smashed by a knight or something out on an open field in Scotland, they were going to come back at the end of the battlefield. Somebody walked around and stabbed all the bodies. Like, at least you're dying today, and you're going to get it over with. They just sat in those trenches with their feet rotting off for months, years. World War I is my least favorite.
Selling me.
Look, Nam's terrifying. The amount of like time your infantrymen stood was in combat. Like, you don't hear about a lot of fragging going on in World War II, or at least I've never heard it. You don't hear about fragging going on in World War One. Although I bet that whistle-blowing cocksucker would get shot if I was hanging out with him. But in Nam, you hear about it all the time. Officers getting a grenade rolled into their tent. They would put a bounty up. Everyone in your squad would be like, $20 if that motherfucker ain't around. I got it. They would all of a sudden be a pot together for who would kill the sergeant or the lieutenant or whoever's going to out on patrol tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like every single conflict has its own kind of hell component to it, right? Because if you there's something to be said for going to a foreign conflict, especially being, growing up in a small town and that being all you know, and you're like Tom Hanks being a teacher or something like that, going overseas. But you also have to think like things like the Civil War, where your family is not an innocent bystander. Like, they're also in the middle of it, right? So like, even you going to fight this great war against this thing that, abroad, you may or may not come back, but the fact your family will be safe because, the country's going to, stop this imminent threat or whatever. Man, like, you think about like your wife, your kids potentially being tortured or raped and killed and stuff like that. That's another element of psychological component that I think that just every single fucking every conflict has its own.
You know what red legs are, Taylor?
No, I don't.
I said
that's those northern marauders coming down to the south, raping and pillaging, and a special forces kind of guerrilla warfare detachment. It's going from fun. You ever watch the movie The Outlaw Josie Wales with Clint Eastwood? Oh my God. It's one of my favorite Westerns. Clint Eastwood's family is attacked by red leg. is attacked by
I
red
didn't
legs.
fall for
They
it.
come and they
could
rape his
tell.
wife and they burn his family alive in their house, and they think they've killed Clint Eastwood, but they haven't. And then a Southern brigade comes by and goes, red legs, yeah, we're going up north. Set a few things straight. Clint Eastwood says, I'll be coming with you. And then the music starts playing, boom, boom. And then you get a montage of them like riding through the north, like whooping ass. And at the end of the movie, the whole deal is that Clint Eastwood is the last rebel who hasn't surrendered, and he goes west, and so he's going through Texas and going on crazy adventures. And whenever he kills a man, because he's a bad motherfucker with a pistol, obviously. After his family's laid dead, he goes into the ashes and digs out his old pistol and starts training. And at first, he can't hit the fence post, but by the end, he's Clint Eastwood. And you have a little training montage, and every time he kills somebody, spits that black tobacco juice on their head. The boy goes, shouldn't we bury him, Josie? Where he says, buzzards got to eat same as worms. And they ride on. Uncle Leo is in his like fucking acting debut.
Hello.
He's a bad guy. Yeah. He's like, now, all right, now, Mr. Josie Wells. Now you pull that pistol out slow as molasses in the wintertime.
Josie, you said you'd be here on Tuesday for dinner, and you didn't show up. That's what he'd be doing. Just bothering him to death.
It's Outlaw Josie Wells is in my top 5 westerns all time. It's definitely right up there. It's I think I like Unforgiven, and then
Tombstone.
Unforgiven, then Lonesome Dove, then Tombstone, then the Outlaw Josie Wells, and then I can mix and match after that.
The Magnificent Seven with
I don't love that one. A little slow for me. So is The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. A little slow for me. I appreciate those movies artistically, I suppose, and like historically as a little time capsule of the spaghetti westerns. That's an interesting time in Hollywood's history, but I don't love them. The dubbing is bad. The thing they did in Italy is they would have everyone speak their native tongue, and then they just dub it in post, and it looks like shit.
That sucks. You got like a real Tower of Babel thing where it's just like some person speaking Italian, another person speaking English. They have no idea what the other person's saying. Although I guess even if you don't speak Italian, you can get the gist of what they're saying. They're very animated.
This guy's angry about something.
A lot of hand movements. A lot of that.